You don't need magic, you need meaning, because when a woman speaks with truth, with timing, with calm power, she doesn't just get remembered, she gets felt. Let that settle in your chest for a moment, my friends, because somewhere along the way you were sold a false idea that to grab a man's attention you had to perform a role, be sweeter, be sexier, be anything but your true self. They gave you lines, tactics, advice, games, told you to smile a bit more, reply quicker, act more chill, and still here you are wondering why it still feels like you're unseen. Have you ever noticed how some women say so much, still leave no mark, and yet another woman walks in, says just one sentence, and the whole atmosphere shifts? That's not magic, that's mastery. That's someone who understands the weight her voice carries. And today, that's exactly what we're tapping into now. Before we go further, tap that like button, hit subscribe, and do it for yourself, not for me. Because if you've ever felt like you were doing all the right things, but still getting overlooked, what we're about to break down could be the shift you've been hoping for. Hey ladies, picture this. You're standing by the edge of a quiet lake, smooth like glass you toss in a tiny stone, and even that small ripple moves across the entire surface. That's what the right words do, not loud, not needy, just purposeful, a whisper that lingers long after you've stepped away. But most women are throwing heavy rocks, shouting into the silence, trying too hard, saying too much, hoping something sticks. But it doesn't, because real attention doesn't come from volume, it comes from vibration. Here's the truth: the subconscious mind, the place where attraction actually lives, doesn't respond to facts, it responds to emotion, image, energy. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. And that's true for relationships too. You don't make a man think of you by trying to convince him, you do it by triggering something within him, something wordless. See, the problem isn't that you're not trying, the problem is that you've been using the wrong approach. You ask, how's your day? He says, fine. You ask, what do you do? He gives a plain answer. And then silence, no spark, no memory. Why? Because your words didn't go deeper. And it's not your fault. You were taught how to perform, not how to connect. But that ends now. Because when you learn how to speak words that hit the subconscious, when you understand not just what to say, but when to say it, when you walk into a moment with calm certainty instead of anxious energy, that's when he feels you. That's when you become unforgettable. You don't need a list of clever lines, you just need a few powerful words said with presence, with care, with that centered grace that makes a man pause, tilt his head slightly, and think, wait, who is she? So stay close, my friends, because what I'm about to show you isn't about tricks, it's about truth. And it's not manipulation, it's magnetism. And when you learn to speak with meaning, not just noise, you stop chasing attention and start drawing it in. The mind doesn't really remember words. It remembers energy. It's not logic that makes someone think of you, it's emotion, right? That on your mirror, my friends, because that's where it all begins. Most women believe they need to impress a man with the perfect comment, the perfect question, the perfect version of themselves, polished, practiced, performing. But in reality, he doesn't remember what you said, he remembers how you made him feel. Jung said it already, and it's worth repeating. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. Now take a breath and let that land, because when you speak to a man's unconscious, you're not just chatting, you're stirring something deeper. Imagine this: you walk into a dark room full of thousands of balloons, each one with a word written on it. Hey, how's your day? What do you do? And floating among them is your voice saying the same thing he's heard 100 times before. What happens? You blend into the noise. Now imagine something different. You walk into that same room, and instead of tossing out another balloon, you light one single candle. That tiny flame changes everything. It pulls the eye, it creates warmth, it shifts the space. That's what the right energy does. It doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be genuine. And so many of you are scared to speak with depth because you think it's too much. You're afraid he won't understand, or that he'll find it odd. You doubt yourself and fall back on safe lines. Hey, how's it going? Just checking in. Harmless, maybe unforgettable. Never. You weren't born to be background noise, but you were taught to keep quiet, to stay soft, to not make waves. But men don't remember polite, they remember presence, because when your words come from real intention, when they suggest a story, spark emotion, carry depth, you stop being just that girl from the app or the woman he met. Once you become a memory that echoes a feeling he doesn't want to let go of. So from now on, no more empty phrases, no more scripted small talk. From here on out, your words carry purpose. Stay with me, because now we're about to reveal the 3 words that don't just land, they stay, they bypass logic, and speak directly to memory. Let's keep moving. The 3 words that shift everything, you and me. It's not Pickup line, it's a mirror, a spark, a gentle invitation. Say it out loud with me, you and me. Now you might think it sounds too simple to make a difference, but that's exactly why it works, because sometimes the strongest shift doesn't come from shouting, it comes from a whisper placed perfectly when you say you and me. You're not making a demand, you're suggesting a scene, you're planting a thought, you're speaking the language of possibility, not pressure, not need, just openness. And guess what? The male subconscious especially responds to visuals, not directions, emotion, not judgment. Let's break it down. Like a wise mentor would tell his younger self, it's not about what you say, it's about what it brings out. And when a woman says you and me with calm presence, you don't just hear it, you see it. Picture this: he's sitting across from you, the vibe is light, the mood easy, and instead of saying, I really like talking to you, you lean in with a slight smile and say you and me could have dangerously good conversations. Boom, you didn't flatter him, you included him, you invited him into a shared vision that didn't exist until you brought it to life. You and me, we'd win every debate, especially if we're on the same team. See the change, it's not a script, it's a scene. It paints him into a possibility, a flash of tension, a little playfulness, a sprinkle of curiosity. And I know your mind may whisper, won't he think I'm being too bold? What if it sounds cheesy? Or he doesn't say anything back? Listen carefully. You're not saying it for a reaction, you're saying it to make an impression. And that impression, it lingers, because this isn't about control, it's about certainty. This is the kind of phrase that makes a man pause, not because he feels pushed, but because for once he feels possibility. So the next time you're connecting with someone, don't freeze, don't overthink, drop the spark, drop the mirror, say it like it's light, say it like it's natural. You and me, it's not a line, it's a door, and what's coming next is all about the timing, because just like a spark, if it's dropped too soon or too often, it won't light a thing. It's about to go deeper now. This phrase, you and me, it's not about control, it's about comfort. You don't chase attention, you carry presence. Feel that, my friends, this is the pivot moment. See, you and me isn't a trick, it's not a hidden code to sneak into his thoughts, it's a reflection of how you carry yourself. This phrase works not because it's fancy, but because when you say it with confidence, it says to the world, I'm not waiting to be chosen, I am the choice. Jung taught us, the unconscious loves certainty, loves symbols. And when you speak with clarity, without hesitation, you become a symbol of something strong in a world full of uncertainty. Think about this. You ever hear someone say, do you maybe want to hang out sometime? That's not certainty, that's asking for permission. It's like holding the key to a door and still asking if you're allowed. And now flip it, you and me should try that new place downtown. That's not a question, that's presence. That's you guiding the tone and trusting that if he's aligned, he'll come closer. Let me ask you this: do you want to be remembered as the woman who paused, or the one who made him feel something real with a single sentence? Because energy doesn't lie. You can say the right things, but if you say them like you're unsure, they won't hit. But say them like you know who you are. That's when he listens closer. That's when he sees you different. It's not about being loud, it's about being anchored. And it's not about dominance, it's about clarity. That's what real feminine strength looks like. It doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't pretend, it speaks with trust. So stop asking to be invited and start being the invitation. Because when you stop trying to earn connection and start speaking like someone who already has it, that's when balance shifts. That's when you stop being ignored and start being remembered. And coming up is the timing, the spot where most women go wrong, and how to make sure your confidence doesn't become pressure. Stay close, we're about to sharpen. This timing is everything. Don't speak too soon. A wise woman waits for the right window, not the applause. Write that down, my friends, because timing matters more than people think. You could have the best line, the calmest energy, the most magnetic presence, but if you drop you and me too early, it'll fall flat like a sales pitch, and nothing cools down chemistry faster than sounding like you're selling something. Say it too early, he feels trapped. Say it too much, he goes numb. It's not just what you say, it's when you say it. That natural opening, when the conversation is easy, the mood is light, and he's laughing, leaning, and that's your cue. Picture this: talking, he's sharing his favorite taco spot. You grin, nod, and say you and me should check that place out. See if it lives up to the talk. Just like that, you shift the moment, suggest togetherness, draw a tiny picture, and here's the magic. You didn't ask, you said it, and left it. Attraction isn't loud, it's a whisper that stays. It's not a push, it's a brush. Most women try to grab a man's attention like clenching sand, tight, anxious. But the woman who knows her pull plants the idea and moves on. Let him water it, let it echo in his mind later. That shared moment wasn't loud, but it echoed, it stayed. That's power. So trust the quiet, trust the opening. You don't need to move fast to matter. You don't need to rush the fire. Just know where the spark fits, and next, we're going to uncover why you and me strikes deeper than logic can explain. It's not just casual, it's a symbol. We're stepping into something older, something emotional, something real. The unconscious doesn't speak English, it speaks in pictures. And that, my friends, is where real influence lies, because when you say you and me, you're not just saying words, you're planting an image, and symbols, they skip logic, they dodge debate, they go straight into memory. Jung didn't just study the mind, he understood the myths inside it. And he knew the unconscious is always listening, always observing, always sensing. It doesn't respond to lists or lines, it responds to feelings and images. So when you speak using emotion, suggestion, and imagination, you're talking. In the language of the soul, you and me isn't about the present, it's about what could be. It's not a statement, it's a vision. It says, imagine this moment, us together, not in some fairy tale, but in something real, like arguing over music in the car, or eating tacos on a weekend. You're not seducing, you're reminding him of connection, of team, of belonging. Picture tossing a pebble into a still lake, no splash, just quiet ripples, slow, deep, lasting. That's what a phrase like this does. It ripples. You drop it today, and tomorrow, while he's driving or brushing his teeth, your voice comes back. You and me would be a strong pair. And he smiles. He doesn't know why, he doesn't try to, he just feels it. That's not a trick, that's meaning. And the best part is you don't need to explain. If he really felt it, you won't need to repeat it. This is the kind of woman who doesn't just impress, she leaves behind a quiet myth. That shows up later in still moments, when he's alone. So don't chase his approval, don't wait for a quick response. Speak like someone who knows the power of her presence, especially the part that lingers and coming up. We're talking about the most overlooked move of all, the silence that follows, because what you don't say might just be the most unforgettable part. Let the silence speak for you. If you say the line and then wait for applause, you've already missed the moment. Let that settle inside your chest, my friends, because this next piece, it separates the women who try from the women who truly leave a mark. See, saying the right thing is only half the story, the other half is what you do after. And this is where many women stumble. They say you and me, and then freeze, watching him closely like a student waiting for a grade. You can feel the shift in energy, but not in a good way, because what does that say? It says, I need you to validate this. It says, I need your reaction, so I can feel okay about what I just said. But the woman who owns her power, she moves differently. She says the words, gives a soft smile, and keeps the flow going. That's what we call drop it, and walk. You say it like it just came to you naturally, like it's part of the conversation, and then you let it rest. Why? Because true feminine power is not in the chase, it's in the calm, it's in the pause, it's in the presence. You don't plant a seed and then yell at it to grow. You don't dig it up every few minutes to check if it's sprouting. You trust the soil, you trust the moment, and that same trust applies to this. You say the line, say it gently, say it with a smile that carries the message. I don't need a response, I already know it landed. That kind of quiet confidence is rare and unforgettable. It speaks volumes without saying another word. It tells him, I'm not chasing your reaction, I already believe in my own energy. Because here's the truth, silence is powerful. It gives space, it creates a pull. It allows him to step into the feeling on his own. And when a man remembers a moment all by himself, that's when the deeper connection begins. That's when your words stop being words and become a feeling. So let it echo, let the silence hold its shape. Don't explain, don't repeat, don't stare, just speak, smile, let go, and allow the stillness to do its quiet work. Because sometimes what you don't say is what stays with him longest. You never really could. And now we're stepping into something even more real, the part of him that creates, designs, and builds. Because when you learn how to touch his hands, not just physically, but in a symbolic way, you won't just connect with him, you'll be carved into his memory and stay with me. Because number 8, these words don't just shift his thoughts, they transform yours. When you begin to speak with this kind of presence, you don't just become unforgettable to him, you become unforgettable to yourself. And that's the truth that many people miss, because yes, you and I can leave a man thinking about you for days. It can echo in his thoughts, spark something he didn't expect, make your presence linger in rooms where you're no longer standing. But let's take a step back now. Let's look at the full picture. This has never just been about him. This has always been about you, about how you move, about how you talk, about how you claim your space without needing to fill every silence or chase after every yes. When you use this phrase and say it with confidence, with grace, with a calm strength that doesn't look for permission, you're not just inviting him into a moment, you're making a strong statement to yourself. I don't have to be selected, I already am the one. Let that settle in, because from the start it wasn't about following a man, it was about coming back to yourself. It was about finding your voice again, not the voice that pleads or waits, but the voice that already knows. Voice that speaks from steady power, from trust in yourself, from a place so calm, so rooted, that even when your words are few, they feel like thunder. You don't say "you and me" to get his attention, you say it because you're a storyteller, a reflection, a woman who speaks in meaning, not manipulation. You create deep connection not through performance, but through presence. So from now on, don't use your voice to run after a man, use it to show the kind of woman you've grown to be. Because when you speak with that energy, you don't need to be remembered, you already are. And if something inside you came alive during this message, if this touched something deeper than tips and tricks, then press the like button and hit subscribe, not just to follow more videos, but to find more truth, because we're not here to play small games, we're here for real change from the soul. And I promise you, when you start walking through life like this, you don't just attract love, you become it. Stay grounded, stay glowing, and we'll talk again soon. See, when a woman truly understands the power of her words, she stops speaking to gain something and starts speaking to show something that already lives inside her. She no longer talks to impress someone else, she speaks to remind herself that she never needed anyone to choose her, because the moment she waited for approval, she gave away her strength. But when she stands tall, when she speaks from peace and certainty, it's like the whole world pauses for a moment, like even time listens and hears something people won't often tell you. Confidence doesn't shout, it's quiet, it's calm. It's the kind of feeling that enters a room and doesn't have to say anything, because presence isn't something you force, it's something you return to. And once you return to it, everything shifts. Your walk, your voice, your limb. It's even the way you pass someone without needing their attention. You begin to see yourself more clearly. And that's where the true shift begins. You stop seeking reactions from others and start seeking alignment within, because when you are in alignment, your words carry power, not because they're perfect, but because they're real. Maybe, just maybe, saying something like "you and me" isn't even about love. Maybe it's about bravery. Maybe it's about the moment you stop questioning what you offer and start honoring what's always been inside of you. Because sometimes it's not even the words themselves, it's how you speak them, the way your voice carries meaning, even when you're silent, the way you don't shrink or change to make someone else feel more powerful. No, you grow, you shine. And you remind him, not just with your words, but with your energy, that you are the moment. And here's the truth: once you speak like that, it doesn't only change how he sees you, it changes how you see yourself. And that's the whole purpose, right? To speak not from need, but from wholeness, not to win someone over, but to connect. And true connection always starts with you, with the story you tell yourself in quiet moments, with how you affirm your value before anyone else does. And when you reach that place, when your energy matches your truth, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to be, but because you're real. And once you feel that level of self-respect, you won't ever settle for less again. You'll stop running after meaningless attention and start expecting genuine connection. Not because of ego, but because of peace. And peace never chases, peace waits with confidence. And peace always pulls in what belongs. So next time you feel like making yourself small or changing just to fit someone else's world, remember this: your energy is your filter, your voice, your vibe, your presence. It tells others how to treat you. So say it clearly, say it with strength, say it without needing anything back. You and me, not as a question, but as a statement, not as a request, but as a reflection. Because when you talk like that, the right people will feel it, and the wrong ones will fade. And that's exactly the balance. You never have to chase what's already moving in your direction. You just stay steady. You just keep showing up as your full self, because real energy doesn't have to be loud. It just stays, and that's what makes it unforgettable. So as we bring this to a close, hold on to this: your words are not just sounds, they're blueprints, they're energy, they're a signal to the kind of life, love, and purpose you're building every day. And if even one part of this gave you more strength, clarity, then that's already a win. Speak from your peace, not from your fear, from your truth, not from your doubt, because that's where your power lives, that's where your future begins, that's where everything changes for real. And until we meet again, stay strong, stay kind, and most of all, stay you. Because the world doesn't need another copy of perfect, it needs a louder version of real. And that is exactly who you are. Absolutely, because the truth is, your words carry not just sound, but direction. Your energy becomes the compass, your spirit the signal. And when you begin to live and speak from that place of deep knowing, something inside you changes. You stop waiting for the right time and start realizing you are the right time. You are not a moment in someone else's story. You are the entire chapter. You don't show up hoping to be enough. You show up already full, already complete. And that fullness doesn't need to compete, compare, or convince. It just shines. And in that shining, in that calm, radiant truth, people feel something different around you. They lean in not because you're loud, but because you're clear. They remember you not because you pushed your way into their mind, but because your energy stayed long after your words were done. And I want you to know this: your silence has power too. Sometimes the most unforgettable thing about you is the peace you bring into a room without saying a word, the way you smile without seeking validation, the way you listen without the urge to interrupt, the way you love without needing to beg for love in return. That's grace, and grace is not weakness, it's quiet strength. It's choosing not to fight for a place at someone else's table because you've already built your own. And when you speak from that place, when your presence is rooted in grace and self-trust, the right people will feel it, and the wrong people will reveal themselves, and that's a gift, not a loss, because clarity is one of the highest forms of protection. You are not here to chase, you're here to attract. You're not here to perform, you're here to be real. And in this world of noise, being real is revolutionary. When you know who you are, you no longer shrink for approval or stretch for attention. You just walk tall, speak gently, and trust deeply, because that's what makes you magnetic. Not your looks, not your titles, not even your words, but your presence, your peace, your authenticity. And if anyone can't meet you at that level, they're not your loss, they're your lesson. So the next time you're tempted to stay quiet, when your truth is burning inside, or to say something just to keep the peace that doesn't really serve you, pause and ask yourself, does this reflect my power, or does it hide it? Because your words, your energy, your boundaries, they're sacred. And every time you honor them, you teach the world how to treat you better. Every time you speak truth, even when your voice shakes, you reclaim a part of your spirit that once felt silenced. And the more you reclaim, the more you remember who you are, and that remembrance is the root of all transformation. Because the world won't change you, you change the world by being so deeply you that nothing outside of you can unseat you. So from this moment on, speak like your soul is listening, walk like your ancestors prayed for this moment, and love like your heart has never been broken, not because it hasn't, but because it has healed stronger each time. And now it knows how to hold space for both beauty and truth, both depth and boundaries. And that balance is where your magic lives. Remember this: every time you speak, you cast a ripple into the world. You send out a message not just to others, but to yourself. And that message either reinforces your worth or waters down your value. So speak as the woman who knows what she brings, not as the girl who's afraid to lose something. Because when you know your worth, you stop fearing loss altogether. You understand that what's meant for you will feel peaceful, not confusing. That love that feels safe will never need chasing. That respect doesn't ask you to perform, and connection doesn't drain, it nourishes. And so I say to you, speak up, show up, glow up, but don't do it for them. Do it for you, because your voice is your home and your truth is your freedom. And once you start living like that, the world doesn't just notice you. It shifts around you, because your energy has the power to shape it. And you've had that power all along. Now breathe deep, take it all in, and walk forward. Not with fear, but with faith, because you were never just made to be remembered. You were made to make an impact, and darling, you already are. Would you like me to continue this even more with deeper layers of emotional empowerment and soft poetic rhythm, or move it into another direction like healing after heartbreak, inner feminine work, or divine alignment? Let me know how you'd like it shaped.